Hello everyone, today we're going to be talking about the ARCS model of motivational framework for students and educators. And this is a very important framework. It was created in 1979 by John Keller. He was an educational psychologist and an instructional theorist. And he developed this model in repudiation of a lot of the behaviorist and constructivist models of instruction at the time. He thought that they were too singularly focused on external stimuli rather than internal student motivation. And he had an understanding that a combination of the two were very important. So he wanted to develop a theory of internal motivation, and he used this acronym to do so. So motivational models, before we get into the specifics of the acronym and the items within the acronym, motivational models are needed because they enhance learner engagement. So they sustain attention throughout the learning process of students, and this is important because it prevents boredom and disengagement. When you have students' attention, when you initially enrapture them and when you sustain their attention, they don't become disengaged. They are able to pay attention the whole time and retain all the information. So this improves their learning outcomes, obviously, because it helps them connect with material multilaterally. This helps them use material, apply material, and render the material relevant to themselves, as we'll discuss. And it boosts their retention, comprehension, and their application on all levels. So this fosters their intrinsic motivation because it encourages positive association with learning. It makes it meaningful and rewarding instead of tedious and boring. And it builds a sense of personal satisfaction and accomplishment when they learn things. And this supports a variety of diverse learning needs for our students because it addresses their varying motivations. It tailors it to individual interests and strengths and backgrounds, and it provides tools to personalize and adapt instruction to different students. So the acronym has 4 items. It's a fourfold dimension for understanding motivation, and acronyms are attention, relevance, confidence, and satisfaction. And this is a little diagram indicating some of the key tenets of each item. So A is for attention. So attention focusing on capturing and sustaining learners' interest. So the initial stage of gaining their interest and keeping it throughout the lesson. And this encourages engagement and curiosity to keep learners focused. So teachers gain attention by different kinds of perceptual arousal. They use visuals and sounds. They use inquiry arousal. They ask questions, namely critical questions, not really yes or no questions. We want students to think about material. And we have to vary up these methods of instruction. We don't do the same thing every time because otherwise students will become bored, disinterested, and disengaged. So for example, a history teacher might show an image of a fascist march on the projector as students walk in. And under the image, he might ask the question, what kinds of things do you see in this image which reveal the type of regime the march is celebrating? So this is a critical question. He's using a visual, and he's calling back to things that students might already know for them to answer the question. So R is for relevance. This ensures learners connect material to themselves and their personal goals and interests, and it helps learners understand why it matters because it makes it relevant to them. So instructors establish relevance by goal orientation, by linking it to learners' existing objectives and their existing motives. What are they interested in? And it makes things familiar by relating concepts to learners' prior understanding, knowledge, and experiences. So, for example, after students answer the first question, the teacher might ask, what kinds of things do we see in this march that we see in our own national displays, in our own country? What kind of things do we see here that we don't see in our own country, vice versa? And what does this reveal about us, our system of government? And it would lead into a discussion about different hallmarks of indicators of what kind of aesthetics indicate what kind of government is what. So C is for confidence. So this builds learners' belief in their ability and competence in a given subject matter. So it encourages persistence and it reduces uncertainty because it clarifies their path to success. C is for confidence. It could also be for clarity. So how do instructors establish confidence? So number one thing is things like this. They set clear expectations, like rubrics. They define goals and criteria for success up front. And they scaffold tasks by breaking them into manageable steps with guided support and feedback to provide constructive and positive reinforcement to encourage growth among their students. So for example, a teacher might assign the presentation on the role of aesthetics in different systems of government. In our previous example, he provides a clear rubric on the parameters of evaluation. He sets a deadline for an intermediate outline, so it's a scaffolding outline on the first half of the presentation, and he gives ungraded constructive commentary on the students' outlines before their final presentation the following week. So this is all three of these encapsulated in this confidence establishing exercise. So S finally is for satisfaction, because if students are dissatisfied, they're less likely to want to go back and continue learning. So it ensures learners find the learning process rewarding, fulfilling, and they are continually engaged and motivated to learn in the future. So we ensure satisfaction among students by offering intrinsic and extrinsic rewards. So we allow them not only to experience pride in their own work, but we also provide tangible recognition, and we give them grades, praise, certificates, and different kinds of positive feedback. And we allow further application opportunities to apply their knowledge and their interest in a meaningful context. So for example, in the previous example, after every student presented, the teacher might remark that they have all learned the most important markers in identifying and distinguishing governments. He hangs all the posters around the room. So he offers both intrinsic, he allows the students to experience pride, and extrinsic rewards. He hangs all the posters around the room. And maybe an application opportunity he says, hey, if you want to learn more about this, or talk more about this, or apply this context, you can join History Honor Society or something. So a world without ARCS is a dark, dark world. It's kind of something similar to what we saw during the COVID-19 pandemic, because students separated from the classroom had very little impetus to pay attention, and this led to a situation where they did not see material as personally relevant because it was kind of behind a screen. It was amidst a lot of uncertainty, so their confidence plummeted in their work, and it caused them to take little pride in their achievements, which left students largely dissatisfied. And without all of these items at play, they kind of feed off one another. We saw the lowest levels of student achievement in recorded history, and we're still recovering from that in a lot of our pedagogy and trying to rebound from COVID, because a lot of students, their early development was during COVID, and now they're in middle school and high school, and they're seeing very low markers of success because they're disengaged, because they're not motivated because of this world without ARCS that we saw. So we'll discuss a little bit more in the handout about how we can identify ARCS and what a world with ARCS looks like, and kind of trying to give some examples of what each item could look like in context in a lesson. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and thanks for listening.